Bing.
Welcome to Astro Bros. We are the Astro Bros. We're a bunch of psychotic people. Let's go. Boys, how you doing?
We are also subtropic.
And subtards, I've heard. So these are all true things. Right
We're
now.
more like temperamental, you know.
We've got temper, true temper.
Temper.
Rakes. We're rakish. We're rakish. True temper rakes. We're rake.
I'm gonna Reiki all over.
Reiki all over you. I'm gonna learn the codes of the universe, and then it's gonna be over for you.
I'm gonna alter your Kundalini. So what's new in the world? Anything? What's new in astrology? Besides Mars retrograde about to oppose Pluto coming up pretty soon. That's exciting.
Oh, that gets next few days it's gonna get tighter and tighter. Tighter and tighter. And then it'll be real tight on the second. And it'll start separating on the third. So we got a couple days of tightening tension right into the new year, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of plane crashes. I've heard that when Jupiter is in Gemini, it tends to be a lot more public plane crashes.
Oh,
because Jupiter is, I think Jupiter and Gemini, it's a detriment for Jupiter, because Jupiter in Sagittarius is, at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jupiter and Gemini is deficient place. Not such a good place.
Oh yeah. No, that's
place?
It is
fish there.
Whoa.
Just
that's Saturn in Pisces. That's the fishing place. But also the Saturn Jupiter square. Then we had Mercury involved. So I think that also adds to it. It just emphasizes it. I mean, because Jupiter is in Gemini for a while, and we're not getting plane crashes all the time. So it definitely is a good lesson in transits, because like when we get other planets involved, like Mercury opposing Jupiter, and then obviously the square to Saturn, we get, unfortunately, some plane crashes, some issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Are we talking about the one where they blame Russia for shooting one down, or what was it? They shot one down or something?
There's been like 3 in the past couple days. One that seems like it was shot down, or maybe some weird shrapnel. One that just didn't take off, and then one that came down, and then quite a few people lived in it. I don't know. There's like 3 or something that have happened in the last couple days, like last week or something.
Yeah, there was one in Korea, right? That was the one that
I think that's the one that didn't take off. It just hit the wall. Yeah.
Okay.
Sad.
Okay.
Big fireball.
Yeah, that's are you guys I mean, let's get intimate. Are you scared of flying? Because I used to be scared of flying. I'll be full disclosure. I used to fucking think that this is unnatural. You shouldn't be able to like go up into the air and go at like fucking 800 miles an hour and just be able to fly across the world. But you know what? The amount of times that it works out makes it the probability of you crashing is so low that it's probably better. But
I love being on a chair in the sky, but I've noticed that every time that I'm on a plane, it's that the recycled air or whatever, I almost always get sick, when I get to my destination.
Oh yeah.
And I remember during the COVID times, I had to wear a mask on the plane, and I didn't get sick. And I was like, it's cool not getting sick. Maybe I don't want to look like a crazy COVID person, and wear a mask on the plane, because everybody would be like, oh my God, that guy's a sheep.
Yeah.
It's going to suck, you lose either way. Either you get sick, or people think you're a giant pussy that's still caught up in a psyop.
It's psychosomatic. You put the mask on and then you think, well, this is protecting me, and then you don't get sick. So it's all in your head. No, just kidding.
Well, it wasn't a cloth mask. I used the like actual ones that keep out the shit, but it's like the recycled air. Anybody's sick on a plane, they're constantly recycling that air back to you, right?
Yeah.
Coming out from the vents ahead of I'm sure that people get sick on planes all the time, just because that air circulates, and you're in a close tube with people. So that's what I don't like about flying.
Is it the air, or is it the fact that you're flying and that's stressful? Just saying, because stress also. I mean, I'm asking. I don't know.
I've learned to kind of relax during it. My dad was really scared of flying. He would white knuckle it. But I was kind of excited the first time, that I got on because I hadn't ever flown in my life. I think it was like to California or something, maybe. And it was fun to be on a plane. It was like at an age where I was like, this is kind of like a ride, taking off is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Landing, my butthole clenches a little bit every time we're landing,
Oh yeah.
because that's when you're closest to the ground. Shit could go wrong there and you'd be dead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, in the air, you're the safest because the autopilot takes over and it just does its thing. But yeah, landing and takeoffs are where the problems happen. So yeah, but I don't know. You're more likely to die in a car crash than a plane crash. So that's the and we get in cars every day. So
Plane crash is just more spectacular, though. It's a lot more exciting, in the wrong kind of way. Like if a plane's crashing, you're like, you got a minute and a half while you're like, fuck, like, oh shit. You got a minute to just look forward to your possible death.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people do all kinds of weird shit in that moment. And then if you manage to get out of it, everybody's like shat their pants or they've, you know, molested somebody next to them or done whatever weird kind of shit you do, like when you're, in fear of your life. And then you got to live with each other for the rest of the way home. You got to be like, that guy's just an evil guy and shouldn't be on any kind of plane. And that person smells a lot because they shat their pants. And, this is a bad scene. I don't like it. So it's almost better to crash at that point, because you've seen people at too raw of a reality.
Have you seen the Shane Gillis video of plane crashes?
No.
Oh God! After this episode, look up Shane Gillis plane crash. It's fucking hilarious.
I'll check it out.
Have you also seen Airplane?
Oh yeah.
Airplane.
Yeah. One of the best movies ever. Yeah, the '80s were the best movies ever. I watched all the National Lampoons. Fuck yeah. Anyways, Airplane is great.
Well, I'm just saying all that stuff you're talking about. I'm just like, I'm pretty sure all that was on Airplane.
Yeah.
Just joking.
Nah.
I mean, probably it could be why I think that, and it's just imprinted into my mind from mass media. Mass media. You're so good at your job. Implanting fears into me in my childhood that I didn't even realize.
Oh yeah.
So I was thinking, in my process of learning more about astrology, we could go over the basic 12 signs.
Woo!
And then in combination with that, I figured that since, I'm springing this on you, that we can just go off zodiacsign.com and we can look at theirs and use theirs as a visual representation. Then you guys can tell me how correct it is as well. So it'll be like a twofer. So we'll go over the signs, and then we're also critiquing this site at the same time.
Very exciting. That sounds fun. I'm glad that you planned this out for us.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yep, I totally planned this out.
That's what he was doing. Yep. No, deny. You're not allowed to present your shit.
All right.
Perfect. What's the website? Zodiacsigns.com. That's a website?
Yeah. Pornhub.com.
Pornhub.com.
I typed in 12 astrological signs, and it was like the first one that wasn't obviously something like Wikipedia.
Found it. Yep. Zodiacsigns.com. Got it. All right. Oh, perfect. All right. Yes. Share your screen though, good sir. There it is. Yep, that's the one. Let's go.
All right.
So there are 12 zodiac signs, and each sign has its own strengths and weaknesses. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
And then the basic fire water signs, which we've gone over before. I'm more familiar with the elements, but
nice.
They're just a water sign. That's why they're crying.
Yeah, you'll notice Aquarius is first, and that there's a reason for that because we're the best. So.
Well, I figured we'd start in Capricorn because we're currently in Capricorn.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Womp womp. Okay, go.
Tell us about it.
I mean, I guess I can read.
I know. We know.
Capricorn.
Can you though?
It's I guess I'll just read the basics and then you guys can tell me whether and then you guys can critique it. Yeah, the element is earth,
True.
color is black and brown,
Yeah.
quality is cardinal,
Yeah.
day is Saturday,
Yeah.
ruler is Saturn,
Uh-huh.
greatest compatibility is Taurus and Cancer. Lucky
Eh,
numbers
Debatable.
are
Yeah.
very
8.
debatable. Very debatable.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Because
Lucky
Gay.
numbers are 4, 8.
Absolutely
yeah,
gay.
yeah, that's just nonsense. I mean,
Complete arbitrary whatever.
yeah, exactly.
All right, and the dates are correct. Mm.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The
All
dates
right.
change
Close.
because of the leap years, right? So
Yeah,
sometimes they're a
close
little bit
enough.
different.
Close enough, though. Fair enough.
All right. Well, then we have responsible, disciplined, self-control, and good manners for their strengths.
Good
Managers.
managers, I think it
Yeah,
says.
good manners. Bad manners, but good managers. Yeah.
Hold on.
Yes.
Weaknesses: know-it-all, unforgiving, condescending, expecting the worst.
Yes. Kind of. I mean, sometimes. Yes.
All right.
Do we want to go further into that? Do we want to stop right here and kind of
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about the
stop.
strength?
How about
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
do this
stop.
one by one. Let's go
Stop.
back over strengths. Responsible, disciplined, self-control, good managers. What
Okay.
would you say?
All of those are Saturnian traits. So
Yep.
what this is really focusing on is the Saturn aspect. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So all they're really talking about is the Saturnian traits of Capricorn. That is responsible because Saturn realizes like the law of consequence. You know, Saturn is considered the lord of karma in a lot of ways. Um, that what you put out is what comes back to you. You know, so they tend to be more responsible with how they talk, how they act in public, at least. This is like a big difference. Capricorn in private versus Capricorn in public is usually quite a shift because they do have to do something to express their shadow, and it's usually in private. Um, so responsible is true. They tend to be good workers, loyal workers. They do tend to be disciplined because that's another Saturnian trait. Um, because discipline is how you get better at things. It's how you climb the ladder. It's how you climb the mountain. Self-control is definitely key, but that's not always a strength, right? It's like sometimes they're too tight, right? It's like too caught up in control. And good managers depends on what you mean by good. They're usually pretty good at utilizing other people's skills uh, for a greater purpose, but they don't. They kind of see people often as just cogs in the machine, and they often get caught up being cogs in the machine because that's a problem with Saturnians, as they get like caught up in systems and they end up sublimated or subjugated to systems.
Okay, but I'm gonna push back on that because like if we're talking about like a regular job, like a job where just shit has to happen, there's a value in that. You have to do that kind of shit. So like regardless of whether it's you're just a cog in the machine or not, like say like if your job is to just put shit you know, make food or put shit on a shelf or like do fucking finance, like you have to be able to like check the boxes and do the fucking work. And there's a value in that in the sense that like the world would fall apart if we didn't have earth signs. And this is one of the earth signs. The world would fall apart because you have to have a level of like, yeah, shit has to happen this way. So a good manager is subjective because yeah, you want to be a little bit compassionate, you want to be understanding, but also you have to be like, no, do your fucking job. Like a good manager also knows you got to get people to do their fucking job. And so I think, yeah, it goes both ways, but yeah, I would argue they are good managers or not necessarily like this is something that's important to try to remember. We're not necessarily talking about the sun sign because it's not always like the sun we got to grow into. It's just people with strong Capricorn placements. So whatever that means.
For sure. We're talking about the quality of the energy and depending on its
Yeah.
placement,
Yes.
blends and such with other energies,
Mhm.
So I understand like the different placements and then they're also going to synergize with other energies depending on how life has taught you to lean into certain characteristics and
Yeah.
not into other ones,
and what someone has in their chart. So like if someone is like, say they have like Mars and Venus and Mercury and their moon in Capricorn, they're going to express that Capricorn energy really strong versus just someone who has just the sun in Capricorn. So like it's or like if you have like, I mean, there's a whole generation that has Saturn and then Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn. So yeah, there's like it depends on like what planets are in the sign and where Capricorn is in your chart. But like, yeah, in general, I will say though, like, yeah, there's they're big on reality, and reality fucking sucks. Like
Yeah.
the reality of life sucks. Like it's hard. You got to do work. You got to wake up early in the morning, go to work, do your job well, come home, take care of yourself, take care of your health, which is another earth sign, Virgo. Like the earth signs are about like you just the things that you have to do to live in this, whatever you want to call it. You can call it the 3D, or the third dimension, or whatever, the fucking just
Yeah.
this realm of
So
existence.
more utilitarian, not necessarily materialistic, but in the sense of
Like,
being more essentialistic, in the
yeah,
sense
yeah, yeah.
of
And
I think that
identifying things at for what they are and what their utility is and how they interact with other things.
all earth
which,
signs tend to be a little bit materialistic.
yeah,
I mean, if we're
but
being honest, like
yeah,
earth
yeah, yeah,
signs recognize that the material is a plane to be mastered, and they're working at it, you know. And I
yeah.
think it's important to talk about how they're cardinal earth too. So they're really good at initiating projects in the material, right? Into fruition, into manifestation. They're really good at getting shit done. That is the good manager part of it. It's
Yes, exactly.
setting up the conditions for something to actually happen, physically. They're great at that. They're not always good at the they're not always good at the reality that people are more than just their
Yes,
role. That's
yes,
like the issue, right? They see you, they tend to see you more as your role and how you're useful, and don't always see you holistically.
yeah,
Um, which is fine. That's like a normal thing, but it is a strength when it's used well.
yeah.
They're managing. It's a strength when it's used well, but they end up alienating their workforce, and they get less good work in the long run if they don't treat people
Oh yeah,
like more than just their role, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
I
Yep.
agree. I agree with that completely.
If you don't treat people more than the sum of their parts, then they're not going to be,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And like, if you're a good manager, you obviously need to get productivity out of your worker. Again, a Capricorn word, or like getting, their job has to happen, but also it's if you can't acknowledge that they're also an emotional being, someone who has shit outside of work. Basically, it's like if you're only focused on the work side of stuff and you don't acknowledge that, like people have problems at home, they have problems with their family, they get sick, they have emotional problems, they're moody, they have fun, they go through ups and downs. Like that's all like over the head of Capricorn, because they're like, no, you just do your fucking job. Like you just
Yeah.
need to do your job consistently every day. It's like, well, yeah, but most human beings are not fucking just put their head to the ground, just fucking go, 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 go. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's where that can have problems, because like a good Capricorn leader recognizes that human beings are just we all have fucked up lives, and so we all have shit that we're going through, and being able to work with that and also then get the person to still do their job, that's a really good manager regardless of sign. But that's like the really high positive side of Capricorn. And yeah,
Well, and you guys have basically already addressed this, but the weaknesses are know-it-all, unforgiving, condescending, and then expecting the worst, like being a pessimist.
yeah,
Yeah.
pessimist,
Looking
yeah,
for
Pessimism. I mean,
problems.
how often does Earth life disappoint the shit out of you, right? Like, it does all the time. I mean, not all of us have that Neptunian, like we can just step into the Delulu
you're right back.
land to pretend that it's not. I mean, I do sometimes, but in general, Capricorn does not get to step into illusion as much.
No,
So they just have to deal with things as they are. And
yeah,
having to deal with things as they are and all the messiness of human nature and the shit sandwich that the world can send you, especially being ruled by Saturn, they tend to get the shit sandwich a little bit more fragrant, a little bit more often, I think, with Saturn. Um, that is like that definitely drives pessimism, and that certainly is something that comes up with a lot of Capricorns, depending on obviously their other placements. But that has been almost always something that I've seen with Capricorns, and it comes that pessimism comes from a pretty realistic read of human nature. I feel like that is like where it comes from. So it's
Yeah.
based on reality.
Yeah. And I just want to address the unforgiving part because, like, part of one thing we're talking about how Capricorn treats other people, but we have to remember that how they treat themselves inside themselves is far they're the most hard on themselves versus other people. So they expect the most from themselves. They expect themselves to be, quote, like, to be the hardest workers. So they're unforgiving because they go, well, I have to do this. I have to, be really hard on myself and be a really good worker and do my job regardless of how I feel. I have to suppress my feelings. I have to suppress, like, I'm having a bad day, so I gotta suck it up. So they're not well trained in being able to then be forgiving and compassionate and understanding of other people because they're not that way with themselves. And that can go both ways because they also, like, Capricorn in the positive can also be like someone who is incredibly successful because they can, quote, climb that ladder. Like, I mean, they can really put in the work and they have that self-control, and that's like they can control themselves and they can really, like, like someone who is like, I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m., do my fucking, workout, take care of my, whatever, my, brush my teeth and wash my, face and, like, get my shit together, have a good breakfast, go to work for fucking 10 to 12 hours a day, do a lot of work, and then come home and then, like, do more stuff for myself, and, like, really, like, that is like the positive of Capricorn in a sense, like the ability to really focus yourself and, like, what you do. But, like, obviously if you don't, they can't expect that from other people, and that's where that can have a problem because they can be unforgiving. They can be very, like, they can be judgmental or at least very hard on other people because they expect that from themselves, and they assume and expect that from other people as well, and that's one of their faults.
Yes, for sure. Let's keep going, Troy. Let's go further into this.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and I also like, and I'll try to keep a little bit of minding on time so that we're not spending too long on one, so that we can try to get through them all.
Good.
Capricorn, the goat of fear. A goat with the tail of a fish to is created to face fear and create panic. It is the sign of decisions made to be protected from monsters in our minds, lives, and immediate physical surroundings.
Mm,
Have you
I don't
ever
I
like
heard
don't
of
that.
the goat of
know.
fear
I don't
I
before?
don't,
know how
I don't
good
like
that is.
I don't like that.
I don't feel like it resonates that much. The thing that I will say though is Capricorn is associated with the Devil card in tarot, which
Okay.
is really about power, and it's about power over. Um, it is about dominating others for your own ends, right? It's like the negative sides of Capricorn really come out in that card. It's and most people that you're dominating with Capricorn energy, like how do I even say this? Let me step back for 1 second. Most people aren't really in your power. They have to kind of believe that they're in your power or under your power to be in the chains. In almost all the devil cards, the chains are actually they're actually loose, and there's two people chained underneath the figure of the devil. It's usually Baphomet is usually the expression of it, and two people are chained, a man and a woman underneath them. It's kind of a reflection of Gemini card, the Lovers card, and it's like there's an aspect where you can channel, that darker creative energy and push it towards something, and push it towards like personal power or domination of others. And I think that that's like the dark side of Capricorn when they do get to high positions. Um, Sometimes they use it to dominate or enthrall the other people around them. Um, it's like having an HB1 visa, they're basically serfs, they get serfs under them. It's great for them. Um, just to bring it into current things.
It's too cold to go surfing around here.
Go surfing?
Yeah,
Goat
it's too
surfing?
cold to go. Yeah,
Goat surfing.
yeah. Surfing
Um,
is the goat.
Well,
All right.
Mike,
Well, I guess let's
let
just
me
for
no, let me follow up on that because
go
I have
ahead.
a just so like to build off what Mike was saying, but also like the devil, quote unquote. I mean, it's about materialism. The devil tempts you with materialism. It tempts you with the idea that like everything can be solved through materialism and through this. Like if you just, if you just have enough money, if you just have enough comfort in your life, if you just have enough, if you have the perfect house and the perfect this and the perfect that, like if you just have enough money, you have enough food, you have the house you want, the car you want, the clothes you want, the fucking the TV you want, then everything, then that's everything. That's then you're happy. And the devil tempts you with that, the idea, and that's Capricorn. It's like that's what their ultimate goal is, to have all the material needs that their material needs met. It's the final earth sign, and all the earth signs want their material needs met. But the ultimate trap of that, to help transition to the next sign, Aquarius, Troy, setting you up, is that materialism is not the ultimate. Like you can stay trapped in materialism, and that's where the idea of the devil comes from. Is like, the devil always tempts people in like the Bible and in any thing. It's like it tempts you in like, oh well, I'll just give you all the riches of the world. The riches, like the devil rules this world, and that's the whole idea of like in the Bible is like if you're given all the material comforts you want, everything you want, all the wealth of the world, but that still isn't, it doesn't satisfy you, because yeah, even you can have everything you want and then you feel empty. Then
For sure.
the idea is to then push to what is the next, like what there's something more basically, and that is a good transition to move to Aquarius.
Well, it's a lot of that, it sounds like, is that the ego projects what it needs because it's scared. And so when you have fear that's trying to project what it needs out of reality, is going to come back down to essentially, what the devil in this context would be trying to grant you, in a lot of those metaphors, where it's
Well,
just like, oh, I'm scared that I don't have enough this, that, or this. So
yes.
therefore it's going to fulfill those things from an outside perspective that I think is going to bring me alignment and back into a loving state and feel good in reality, when those are just more things that are you're just reliant on things outside of yourself instead of inside of yourself and connecting with.
Yes, yep. And then that's a good transition to the next two signs, because they basically say, as much as the material world matters, we have to move into the internal world, which Aquarius and Pisces are about. And so it's like, yeah, and that's also why Capricorn is the culmination. It's seen it because it's the final Earth sign. It's the also the final cardinal sign. It's the culmination of developing the self, the ego in the world, and that final culmination is like, I have everything. I have mastered the world, basically. Like that's like the kind of the broad, like, oh, ultimate like goal of like Capricorn, but it's based off of the idea of like developing, like, the self is born in Aries. We start to
You mean
build it in Capricorn.
Capricornism?
Yeah, sure. Why not coin that term? Go for it. You build it in Cancer. You realize that you're not just a lone person in Libra, and that you have to work with other people in Libra. And then you basically go like, well, I can develop and master the self and master the world in Capricorn. But then you realize, but I still feel empty on some level. Well, okay, there's two more signs. What do those signs represent? So here we go to the next sign, Aquarius.
Well, you have
Even if you get to the
Aquarius.
top of the mountain, you're still limited. Even if
Yes.
you get to the top of the mountain, you're still gonna die. You're still like a mortal person on this earth, no matter how much
Yep.
power, no matter how much money you amass. It doesn't fucking matter, because you're gonna be
Yeah.
bones. You're gonna be
Yeah.
dust.
Yep.
Back to it.
Yep. So
All right.
then we have to
We have
then
Aquarius, which is
the
an
next.
air sign. The color is light blue and silver. It's a fixed sign. It's another Saturday sign. They don't like to
Saturn.
work.
Still Saturn, yeah.
Saturn's Day. Yeah.
And then ruler is Uranus and Saturn.
Yes.
Greatest compatibility, Leo and Sagittarius.
Retarded. Absolutely
Lucky
untrue.
numbers
Yeah.
are 4, 7, 11, 22, and 29. These are all
Unsure.
facts.
Yeah.
Doesn't
These are all facts.
seems bullshit.
All right, okay. So strengths are progressive, original, independent, humanitarian.
Okay, let's talk about those.
I
This
mean,
has always been a weird thing for Aquarian for me because some of the like hardest right people in politics have been Aquarian. Um, like Reagan was an Aquarian, Dick Cheney was an Aquarian. I think Nikki Haley is an Aquarian. I think there's more. If I keep going, I just can't remember them all. So it's like almost all of them had hope for the future. They had a certain optimism and a desire to help others, but I wouldn't call them progressive, right?
Let me address. Oh, go ahead.
Whatever the ideology is that they're following, they're really into it, though. That is one thing that I will say about Aquarius.
Let me address that point because you make a good point. My counter to that would be they're going against the norm. And I know that feels like, oh, well, they're conservatives. They're all conservatives. They're hype. But if the norm of our culture for the past at least 50 years has been very much what is the other side. So to be progressive, and progressive is the wrong word. I think we have to like, it's contrarian is a better word, to be counter to whatever is the norm. So like progressive is absolutely the wrong word because progressive, we think of like people who are like pushing for a future. And yes, Aquarius does push for like a better future. But if say everyone is going one way, Aquarius is going to go the other way because they basically say, well, I don't want to go along with the herd because whatever the norm is, whatever the majority is doing, they want to push. Their whole role is to push against that because someone has to, because otherwise we're all just going to follow the fucking herd wherever it leads us. And so like Reagan, for example, like, yes, he wasn't progressive in like a, what we think of that word being, but he was going against the push that goes back to like, post World War II of like this whole like, the liberal economic order or whatever you want to call it, of just like
the end of history.
Well, and just pushing towards like, oh, well, just, open borders and everyone's, and it's like, he's like, well, here are the issues with that. It's not conservative. I mean, it is ruled by Saturn, so there's a conservative nature to it, but it's conservative in the sense that like hold on to certain values, but also don't just go along with the herd. And we can see that in today's world, like where the progressives of modern times of like the 2010s and 2020s are not progressive either. So that word is not used properly, I don't think, by anybody. And like to push back against the woke herd, the woke, like or whatever you want to call it in modern times, is that progressive? Or I mean, I hate to use these labels because we stay stuck on a certain idea, like, oh, well, a progressive is someone who's just open-minded and open to anything. It's like, yes and no. A true progressive wants the best for people in the future, and they want to make the future the best possible. And so I think that just taking a step back from like the Aquarius idea of like, oh, Aquarius is just the hippie who just wants to go, like, everyone just free love and all this bullshit. It's like, no, like what actually makes things better for humanity? That's why it rules humanity. It rules the collective, like in the sense of like, well, and that can take many forms, but what is the best for the collective is something that I think people, they think, oh, they assume that, oh, well, it just means, just fucking open borders and free love and all this bull. And it's like, yes, but there's also all these negatives with that too. And so people tend to forget about that side of Aquarius, where it is also Saturn ruled, where it's like, yes, freedom, but freedom, just unbridled freedom is chaos. Whereas like true freedom is being a responsible individual in a new way of doing things versus just being a fucking hedonist and just going for it and not having any self-responsibility. So I just want to, because I might be biased in this and I have a lot of strong feelings about Aquarius, but like I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the idea of like what Aquarius represents. And also
I think it's because it's been labeled as like this left progressive thing. Which is not true, is what I was trying to say with my original thing. It's more like whatever they think is going to help humanity, whatever ideology or belief system they think is going to help, they really lock on to it for as long as they do, and once it stops like often if it becomes the really popular mainstream narrative, the Aquarians will be the first ones to be,
Yes.
yeah, there's a lot of gay shit about
Yes.
this stuff too. So
Yes,
we're done. We're gonna be moving on to the next thing. I
Yep,
guess we're
yep,
left now. It's weird.
yep.
So they'll shift back and forth often. Uh, like it's interesting because Aquarius is like a dual sign to a certain extent, but it's about like resolving paradoxes, which
So
I
it
don't
sounds
totally
like
understand because I'm not an Aquarian and I don't have a lot of planets in Aquarius. I don't have a lot of planets that are in Aquarius, but they resolve paradoxes. So instead of like they're trying to figure out how to resolve dualities rather than just notice them. Like
Yeah,
Gemini lives in the duality; they bounce back and
yeah,
forth. Libra sees both sides. They're trying to figure out what the balance point is, what the middle pillar
yes,
is between
yes.
those two extremes. And then Aquarius is trying to actually fucking do something bigger, which is a lot harder to do, which is like resolve these paradoxes, resolve these dualities, find the real truth from them, I guess, like
Oh
it's
yeah.
about that. And I don't, again, I don't totally understand it. I just,
No, no.
understand it from knowing a lot of Aquarians and studying it for a long time.
Yeah.
well, but it also sounds to me that like just the natural thing of going against the grain or whatever, it's just part of the downside to that thing is essentially you want to paint yourself into a corner, or you want to essentially uh be alone as a sense of creating your own blind spot to as for exceptionalism in a certain way. uh
Well, that's the
and
aloof, right? That's like the
well,
weakness.
which
That's
is
actually
also
one of the
like
weaknesses.
weaknesses go into runs from emotional expression, which is I in the context here is also is running from feedback. You're running from data.
Uh,
You're running from the truth.
no, no,
No,
I don't
no,
think
no,
Let me
that
no.
that's
just
true.
let me just finish.
Yeah.
Temperamental.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah,
That's
that's
true.
true.
I'm
That's
not
very
voting.
true.
Uncompromising and
Fixed,
aloof.
man.
Yeah.
Yes, uncompromising
But
is true.
Yeah.
see, the thing is, what you've told me is that one thing is that like uh well, it's also an air sign, so that they're very that the idea is almost more important than the actual
Yes.
what's
Let's
going on.
let's
You
talk
know,
about the Aquarian, how they deal with emotions. I
Yes.
think that's an interesting thing to talk about. I don't think like it's necessarily like this super bad thing about them. It's more like they try to understand their emotions. They try to detach from them to understand them,
Yep. Nailed
which
it. There
means
it
that
is. Yep.
for normal, not for normal people, for the normies, they just feel their emotions, right? Especially like water signs. Water signs are just like, I'm in the glass cage of emotion. Whereas a Aquarius will feel that same emotion, but they're like,
Yep.
fuck, this crazy emotion is coming up. I need to examine it and figure out where it's coming from. And they try to
Yes.
follow it back to its roots. Like
Yes.
it's
Yep.
almost like a game to figure out where it's coming from. And it
Yep.
makes them feel to other people like they're closed off when
Yep.
they're just doing their job. Their job is to understand the roots of these emotional entanglements. Their
Yep.
job is to like figure out how that's affecting their day-to-day lives, how that's affecting the collective. It's like there's all these things that emotions do that are not positive. But the problem is like, sometimes you just do have to feel them. It's like if they examine it and then put it away in like some closet in their psyche, then that's bad, right? Because that
Mm,
shit comes back. But if they examine it and then they actually allow themselves to feel it after they understand where it came from, they can release it just like anybody else. It's not that much more difficult.
yeah.
It's just tricky. It's tricky for them. Emotions
You.
are trickier for.
Yeah. You fucking nailed it. That's. I mean, in my opinion, I agree. And I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm just gonna jump on that because I think
Go.
like you fucking nailed it. It's we or Aquarius. No, I'm not going to personalize this. Aquarius does feel
we're
emotion.
talking about you, Nick.
No, we're not. But I'm just saying, when we talk about Aries, you can jump in. What Aquarius
I just
does,
poking you.
I know, and I'm getting all defensive. Aquarius does feel
Defensive
emotion.
before I said anything.
Hey, I'm
Let him finish his thought.
I'm temperamental. God damn it!
You're literally
Love you,
poking
man.
him as he's doing it.
Yeah. No. But think of it like and this is where, okay, so I have a lot of points to try to coalesce into one thing. So we were talking earlier about Capricorn and like the culmination of like the ego and the world, materialism. Well, what comes next is understand, like it's then turning inward, and that starts with our motivations, our psychology, our motivations behind our emotions, what drives us, why we feel the way we feel, why we react the way we do. That analysis happens a lot in the sign of Aquarius. And so it's turning inward. Like once we've mastered the external world, then we turn inward to like, okay, well, what is it? What else is there? And so like when we talk about Aquarius, then we get into like the spiritual world and in ourselves. That's Pisces. But the psychological and kind of our motivations and why we do the way we things the way we do them, why we respond the way we do, why we, why does what someone says upset me versus why this I feel this way versus, and think of it from like the Aquarius is like the lab coat, it's they want to run experiments to understand things. And so it's like, and that includes emotions. And so like how they analyze emotions is through, and that's why they can come across as cold, they can come across as aloof, because in a way they're and it's an air sign, so it's an intellectual sign, so it's thinking about emotions, it's thinking about thinking about how they react, thinking about, and sometimes like for a water sign or a fire sign, they don't think about it, they just fucking do it, they just express it. They're like, well, why are you pausing and thinking about it? Just fucking express it. But like there's a necessity to, like, if that's the importance of Aquarius is someone, each sign has an importance, and the importance of Aquarius is to analyze why, because they experience the emotions that all the other signs experience, but they just, how they respond to them is differently, and that's where they can become across as aloof and especially cold. And you brought up Dick Cheney, and that's a really good example because he was very cold, and that's one of the negatives of Aquarius is they can take that coldness to an extreme and be very evil, for lack of better terms, because
he's an actual incarnation of a lizard person, though. So
yes,
we get
exactly.
It. We understand.
No. Yeah.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah, I
That's
don't know
just the truth, guys.
I don't know how many lizard people got
it.
H-1B visas. So
H-1B visas, H-1N1 visas.
Yeah. We
H-5N1 visas.
Let's talk a little bit more about this. I think that Aquarius is tied in with spirituality in a lot of ways.
Intellectually,
but they're trying to they're different than a Pisces. A Pisces is like, a Pisces realizes that they're just in the water. That is what it is, like that is like the Pisces level of it. And Aquarius is still figuring out the gates, like getting into it, getting out of it, understanding who the cast of characters is that is in this bigger story that we normally don't see. And they have to do this knowing that most people will think they're fucking crazy if they ever talk about it out loud, because there's like, it's a very frustrating thing probably to be Aquarius, because you've got all this secret knowledge that like literally would get you locked up for many years, many different times, and you'd be in like a loony hatch if you said it out loud, And I feel like almost all Aquarians that I know have like some levels of peak experiences where they've, broken free like mundane reality. They've gotten through it. It's like Aquarius, Uranus energy is these flashes of insight that feel like almost like you're getting possessed by some higher knowledge, that you're getting a download from the universe. I feel like Aquarians tend to get those a little bit more than other signs. It just more naturally happens to them because they're friends with Uranus, or Uranus. They're friends with Uranus, Troy. So I feel like that is like a big aspect of Aquarius. It's like they're trying to figure out the rule set of this other world to a certain extent. And then once the rule set is figured out, you're just kind of in it. And that is Pisces. Like, for all the good and bad, because there is a lot of bad to just being fully immersed in, the those worlds too, especially in such a gross fucking density that we're in right now, you know, like third dimension is very some people say it's very low frequency, you know, like low, and like there's a lot of good things about living on the earth, but man, we got a lot of suffering. We got a lot of people that do weird fucking shit here and don't get punished for it, you know? Like there's a lot of fucking abuse, a lot of crazy shit that goes down here that is frowned upon in many other places. You know what I'm saying? Um, so I guess what I was trying to say is um, Aquarius starts to really connect to those things in a deeper way than the other signs do.
Absolutely. And just, they, I mean, even if I want to just give like a dumb, like simpleton real life example, it's like, even like at their work, they, they notice like the people around them aren't, or like their boss is just dumb. They're like, my boss is dumb, and like he doesn't understand these things. And it's like there's these basic understanding of like things can be better, and they don't know how to get to that point, and so they can become very detached and judgmental and kind of cold towards things, because they go like, well, I can see, like building off what Mike was saying, is like I can see things, the issues, and I can see and this is where the Saturn rulership also does apply. It's like the Saturn Uranus rulership both apply, because it's like you can see the shit in reality, and then you can also see how it can be better, but they struggle with how to bridge and to encourage, to get people, like they don't, they're not like a fire sign where they can just encourage people and like motivate people like in a way where like, you're like, hey, like this is how things are, let's get to this better place, here's the vision of what could be better, here's how it could be better. And they can come across as like cold and shitty and like not the best leaders, because they can be like, well, no, you just need to do things this way because it's better. And people are like, well, I don't understand what you're saying, like I don't see what you see. Yes. And so it doesn't matter that you see things like better necessarily, because if you can't learn to communicate that in a way that people can understand, then you're just, and that's where they become kind of detached and kind of feel like they feel lonely in the world and stuff. Yeah,
it's like isolation. It's and when there's something else that was kind of coming to me right there. It's like what is it? It's like the later signs also kind of have strictures on them, and I don't really know everything about this, but it's I've noticed it come up a lot. There's certain things that they'll have the knowledge for, and they know internally that they're not allowed to say that thing to another person because they're not ready for the thing that they're supposed, that they know the answer.
Yeah.
And they literally can't say it because the person is not ready to receive it, and they get like a message like where it's shut down, so they can't communicate it. So that's got to be fucking frustrating for them. I'd imagine, having that having that knowledge, not being able to communicate it, having that stricture on you. It's like that's the word for it. It's like a stricture. It's like you're not allowed.
That's a very correct and specific insight. Yes.
But again, it comes back down to a lot of this is that where do you temper your ideology and when do you run into it? Like essentially, like with an air sign and their ideology and the way that their understanding of reality, they get scared and they want to run into their understanding of reality and kind of block things out and try to reinforce their ideology and their version of reality as kind of their defense mechanism, and it comes back down to the same thing. Instead of seeking and working with other people, to try to solve those things and realizing that they need to temper their fear, they need to temper their ideology with the interactions of other people.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't think it's I don't know if it's fear or if it's I don't know. I don't know if that's the right word, but I see, like, yeah.
I don't think that's fear necessarily either. It's more like yeah, I mean, Aquarius is fixed air. You got to remember that too, When they get on a line and it's been very helpful to them, like they're on it, and like if you're outside of the fucking line, you can be kind of you'll get put on there's like friend enemy distinction that sometimes comes up with ideology in general. And that is something with fixed air and the fixed signs in general, but fixed air. So if you're outside of the way that they conceive the universe, sometimes it can be like, they can be like, listen, I can't deal with that right now. And they'll put you like fucking on the side, it's like, because they're on their own line. They're trying to figure something out, and you being like another person being like a doubting Thomas or like fucking trying to fuck with their line is annoying, and they'd rather just not interact with you. And that's like what Aquarius will do when they're mad at you, is just like fucking shut you off. That's pretty much the energy. If they're tired of you, you'll know, because suddenly that's why there's all the memes of the Aquarius friend. Oh, I made this great Aquarius friend, and then they'll be walking together, and then suddenly the Aquarius disappears, and the person's like, "What the fuck? What just happened?" That happens a lot if you're friends with Aquarians, and if you love them, you just give them time, and eventually they come back. From my experience, that's my sense of it. Or they don't, and you're like, okay, well that also happens sometimes.
I'm not going to comment on that because it's too real. Anyways, and yeah, well
So
said,
it sounds
Mike.
like Nick's
And,
ready to move on to the next
let's
sign.
move on to the next sign.
Let's go on to Pisces, guys.
Yeah, Pisces.
All right, Pisces is a water sign. Color mauve, lilac, purple,
What the
violet,
fuck?
and sea green. That's
Cute.
just four. That's just like that's 4 words for purple. Why
That
didn't it put
is.
why didn't it put in lavender in there too?
Purple and sea green.
Or
Got it.
periwinkle. Come
Yeah.
on.
Come
All right.
on.
They are
It is a
mutable.
mutable sign. Day is Thursday.
Yep.
Ruler is Neptune and Jupiter. And these are the absolute facts. You guys cannot argue them. Greatest compatibility is Virgo, Taurus. Lucky numbers are 3, 9, 12, 15, 28, and
So
I'm just going to say 6.
Can we just say that this site is garbage, but it has some good information? I'll just say that right
The lucky numbers.
from the start.
Hey,
Absolute garbage. Greatest compatibility, yeah, Virgo with a Pisces. I mean, it is, of all the oppositions, is probably the most likely to work. I've seen it work a lot, but it's certainly not the easiest. General compatibility with a Pisces is like Taurus, Capricorn, Scorpio, Cancer. That's like the easiest. And then Virgo is hard, and then everything else is even harder than that.
Yeah. Yeah, they got Taurus right. There you go.
All right. Well, personality traits: compassionate, artistic. I had to make sure that didn't say autistic. Intuitive, gentle, wise, and musical.
Huh. I don't know. That's not the best. Compassionate is true. They do care.
Yeah.
They do care about. They're fucking tired. This is like the problem. They're tired, but they care. They don't have a whole lot of energy to give out to the physical world anymore. They're not really living there most of the time. It's kind of a pain in the ass for them to even be here, I think, is like the general feeling that you get from them. But they want us all to succeed so that we stop running around in this fucking hamster wheel. There is that aspect. So they are compassionate.
Yeah.
But and generally artistic. I'd say that the Neptunian influence is usually somewhere seen in a Pisces. They're usually intuitive. That's true.
Yeah.
Gentle, depends.
Depends on them, yeah.
I mean, some fish are very gentle, but some are sharks, It depends on the person.
Yeah.
Wise, I don't know. Let's
define
talk about it.
Yeah, define wise. Yeah. Like, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, because it's like, yeah, they're like, the problem with the Pisces archetype in general is like, yeah, ideally they're compassionate, they're very intuitive, they like are very like, oh, like I can connect with their feelings and I can support you, and like, but the reality is they're done with this fucking world. It's the sign of like the spiritual world, whether it's internal or external, of just like being done with the material world, done with all the bullshit, done with the reality, as we talked about with Capricorn, that like that can go in different directions. So like, yeah, they can in the most idealistic sense, again, a Pisces type of word, it's like they can be like fucking just amazing and serve people and be really good to people and
Mm-hmm.
caring and loving and compassionate, or they can just be fucking miserable drunks who just fucking drink and are cause complete chaos in people's lives. And so it's kind of like a hard thing because I feel like more than any other sign, they really can express in such completely different ways. And maybe
The
that's kind of,
depths and the heights, man. There's two
yes,
fish. They're swimming in
yeah,
other directions.
yeah. And like,
And
I
they're
don't know
not
if you,
like Gemini where they're bouncing back and forth all the time.
oh
They're
yeah,
like, they're either you're meeting bad fish in the depths or you're meeting high fish, like it's like
But doesn't that go with the it's a water sign and it's mutable, so so it's just like double even more just
hey, Troy's learning
flexible. And I mean, I understand the
and
elements more than
inconsistent.
I do the signs,
No, you
but
now,
if
no, you're
it's
right. You're
mutable, that
right.
just means that it's just like it very much took, like the words of Bruce Lee when he says like be water, and it's just like it's just I am the water, to a certain extent, where it's just kind of like uh I don't know, where it's like some Pisces kind of almost have the idea of it's just kind of like in the same idea where it's like I'm a fish, don't expect me to be anything else except for a fucking fish. I am
Yeah.
water, that's what I do. Don't expect me to be anything else, And sometimes that comes with a little bit of wisdom, and sometimes it comes with wise ass.
Hey,
yeah.
no, you I think that actually is a nice that is a good example of Pisces, and you do have Jupiter and Mercury in Pisces, so maybe you can give us some insight into Pisces too. I think you fucking nailed it. I think, yeah, it's like you can go there is wisdom there. There is, I mean, like ultimate wisdom is realizing that all of this is just stupid. Like all the bullshit in the world is just stupid bullshit. And you can just smile and go, you know what? Fuck it. I mean, like the ultimate spiritual approach to the world and to life and to all the bullshit is just like to just go, fuck it, and just smile and go, you know what? Fuck it. Like that's
True.
super hard. Like it's so hard to like dismiss all the fucking stress we have, all the stuff we have to do, all our responsibilities, all of our relationships. It's like, but like, yeah, like the ultimate spiritual goal, I think, for a lot of people is just to be like, yeah, fuck it. Everything is fine. I'm one with the universe. I'm one with God. I'm one with whatever you want to call it. And just I go with the flow and I'm just chilling and life is good. I mean, fuck, that's like I mean, that's seems to be to me at least like the ultimate version of Pisces because it's like, yeah, we're all good. Everything's one, everything's zen, chill. And like that's hard as fuck. And sometimes
Yes.
that takes drugs, it takes alcohol, it takes really hard experiences to get to that point. But yeah, it's like that. I
Well,
mean,
it
in a
seems
way, that's
like
Pisces.
if you're that mutable, you're going to throw yourselves into a lot of situations just to feel the shape of them, you
Yeah.
Yeah.
know, because
Yeah.
That's true. The thing that I've noticed about Pisces, probably the biggest thing that I've noticed, is they really take on the energy of the people that they're around.
Yeah.
So they're really affected by their upbringing. They're super affected by the people that they choose to hang around, like their friend group, um, because that's the energy they're pulling in all day. They're like a fish. They're breathing the energy, the emotional energy of everyone around them. So if that's like their water, right? So everybody's constantly in states of emotional turmoil. They might get drawn to like super emotionally broken people just because it's like so exciting, there's so much input from it. They get pulled in weird directions. They're like and supposedly, like it's a karmic sign. You're trying to close up all this fucking loose ends that you've had over the course of all your incarnations to try to figure it out how to end it on a Pisces life, right? Like that is, I don't know how true that is, but I feel like it's kind of true. You've always got a chance in a Pisces. I think you got a chance in any life, but in a Pisces life, you got a chance to really tie up your loose ends, resolve your karma, ascend to the next level. And that
makes
is
sense.
kind of what the Pisces is waiting for. Um, but it takes kind of going out of the world and they're impacted by everybody around them. So the more that they kind of get caught up in negative situations or like with negative people, especially those people are connected with drugs or what have you, things that like Pisces love drugs because it gives them the altered state. You know, they love the altered state because materiality sucks. And a Pisces fucking hates it. They fucking hate it. They hate materiality. Very few of them are like fucking loving being on this earth again, you know? There's a certain old and tiredness to the soul of many Pisces that I've met, and you can tease them about it. You can do this to Aquarius too. You can tease them about being like an old decrepit soul, like just barely hanging on to material, you know. And you say that, and they're like, ugh, ugh. They get mad, but it's true, you know. And you can tell that they're getting mad because it's true.
It's true.
It is true.
It's true.
It is true. I don't know what else I need to say about that. I just needed to have that rant.
No. You are just, yeah, you fucking nailed it. And like, in a way, they're gonna struggle until they just, I mean, the whole idea is like, I mean, I guess the whole one thing I read, I forget in what astrology book I read about Pisces, is that like, you know, you can step into the river and fight the current all day long and try to walk against the current and push back against it and try to walk upstream. Or you could just go, you know what, fuck it, and just let the current take you down the path. And I think that's like an analogy for like the idea behind Pisces is just to like, and ultimately like the whole quote of like, let go and let God. I mean, God being whatever you believe. It's like the idea that just like, yeah, like at that point of the last sign of the zodiac, at that point, you're not, I mean, just fucking let go. Like you can just let go and like all the stuff that we hold on to about the material world that we talk about, like all the other signs are about developing in the world, this three-dimensional world that we live in, that we call Earth, that is suffering and difficult and crazy and fun and all these different things, like I'm positive and negative. But then Pisces, by the time you get to Pisces, it's just like, oh, fuck, I'm tired. Yeah, exactly. I just want to, and the best thing they can do is just let the stream take them where the stream is going to take them. And like, and not like in a depressing way, like in a very like, it releases a whole bunch of energy, because that's ultimately the end result of everything is just, you know, you can build up a whole empire in the world, and then the next day it could be destroyed and gone. Mm-hmm. And the Pisces idea is like, well, that's just the way it is. And then you just move on to the next thing. And like, it's like, you know, Capricorn, which we started with, is like, no, I need to build up this empire and hold on to it and do all this work and put all this effort into it and stress about it and make sure it's perfect and make sure it stays forever.
We must get to Mars.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And just keep expanding.
Yes,
but like, ultimately, like, well, you know, we go past Aquarius and then to Pisces. It's like, no, like, ultimately, like, you just have to like then ultimately just be like, okay, I can just relax, let go, and let the stream take me. And like, you know, it's gonna take you where you need to go if you trust. And that's where like that's where like Pisces gets associated with like religion or spirituality, because faith, and faith, exactly. And you just have to trust in something outside of whatever this is, because I mean, you can put a million labels on it, but yeah.
Weren't we in the age of Pisces at that time?
We still are pretty much. We're right on the edge between the two, I'd say. I'd say we're close to the age of Aquarius. I don't know what it is about right now, but it feels like we're close.
Oh, yeah.
And the changing of the ages is going to be an interesting time. I'm not going to get far into that tonight.
Yeah, we could do that. We could definitely save that for another one, because we got several more signs to go over.
The victim or martyr thing, we've got to step on that a little bit, though.
Oh, yeah. That is our fearful, overtrusting, sad desire to escape reality can be a victim or martyr. And I think we kind of already talked about that. But just to say my 2 cents real quick is like being a victim or martyr goes right into what you were saying about karma. Because you got to learn your lesson quick. Well, get slapped in the fucking face.
Yeah.
I think the victimhood of Pisces is like, it's really influenced by the martyr. It's really influenced because it's Piscean age. It's the Jesus age, right? It started with 0 AD, right? Which is like on the year of our Lord, 0 AD, right? This whole age has been colored by Jesus, right? And Pisces is really connected to that archetype, the fishers of men. There's all these other connections. So Pisces are really connected to that archetype. in a deep way. And I'm not going to call Christ a victim or a martyr, but he definitely has a big part of his story is his suffering and dying, right? For the good of all, right? And
Yeah.
this is what's annoying about Pisces because they always feel like their suffering is actually for the good of all, when most of the time it's like self-induced and a little bit fake and gay, you know? And it's not like really for the good of all. It's it's that victim consciousness. It's like, oh, the world's against me. It's that there's this whiny aspect of Pisces, and this is what makes
Yep.
everybody mad at them
Yep.
when they're in this spot. Especially like the fire signs have no fucking time for that shit at all, is what I've noticed. And
Oh
most of
yeah.
the earth signs have trouble with it too. Um, Water signs pretty much co-sign it. This is a problem. I'll stop right there.
No, no, no. You're on it. Um, Troy, you want to jump in or?
I mean, it makes sense to me. It's just, but it's just one of those things is that like, I mean, if you were a soul trying to choose your placements and you were trying to set up for certain things, well then, you know, this would be one of those placements that you would set up to basically make sure that like, oh, I do not want to miss out on this lesson.
Yeah.
So you set yourself up to be like, you know, it's just like, no, this, like, you're kind of like, oh, here's the optional ones. Here's the credits that I think I want, and I can get enough of these, but these are the essential ones. Like, these are the ones
Yeah.
that, like,
Yep.
I'm not passing unless I pass these classes. I'm not
Yes,
graduating
I agree.
unless I get these kind of classes. And that's the kind of thing for like some of the strong placements. You could even almost say for like even the bad ones that people say for like Scorpio too, where it's like, oh, I need to make sure I learn this lesson this time. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
so you have those stronger placements that people say are negative or too much, just to make sure that, because that's why we came here to step in the we learned, we came here to basically learn why not to step in shit and why not to fling it at people. And
Yeah.
so sometimes we have to learn that by stepping in shit and having shit flung at us, and we fling shit at people. And some people don't have to learn those lessons directly, but they can learn them by watching other people, you know?
Oh
And,
yeah.
you know, and these signs are going to be those things to be like, you know what? I did not learn it on the sidelines the last 3 times. I need to get shit flung in my face, you know, to
Yes.
make sure I learn this lesson this time, you know. And sometimes that's being like, oh, I have to be the victim of a crime that I completely didn't do because I need to learn how bad that feels from something I did in another lifetime, you know. And it's just like, and that's part of that thing, oversimplifying things, but it's just, it's understanding that certain of the karmic lessons that we're learning and we're healing and whatever aren't necessarily from things that you did in this lifetime, you know. So it's like not blaming
Yeah.
yourself but still taking on that responsibility, you know, of being like, hey, I can still learn this lesson, you know, for essentially my whole, you know, uh parallel selves and such like that, living our different incarnations.
I have a counterpoint. If they chose it and they know that they chose it, they chose these particular lessons, and they're one of the signs that more knows that than most people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pisces is usually more tuned into like the spiritual, so they know that they incarnated to learn these lessons, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so dumb when they act the victim or the martyr, because like literally you chose this, you dork, you know? Like there's this aspect of it that's like, I mean, I get it. I get that you're feeling bad about yourself right now. I get that materiality sucks, but you chose it and you
Yeah.
know that you chose it. And this is why I don't like that negative aspect of Pisces
That's the
when it
ego.
comes out, because I'm like,
But
Well, that's the
dork, you
ego and the
chose it.
forgetfulness of why we come into this, and you know why
but
it's just like the whole point of us becoming spiritual again in each incarnation on this planet is that we have to break through that ego barrier of actually releasing and accepting that stuff. And sometimes for the people who are more deeply spiritual, it takes more of an awakening to actually get all the way there.
yeah,
True.
exactly. Mike, they chose it to learn it. They don't have it yet. They chose their soul or whatever you want to call it chose it because they have to learn it. And unfortunately, that's why they exaggerate what you're talking about. It's like
New game plus.
they
It's
have
the
yeah.
whining, man. It just
No,
gets to me.
I get it, and that might also have to do with your South Node being in the same sign. So
Yeah, it
maybe
might
it's
be. It might be my South Node
no, I get
being
it, I
over
get
it.
it.
Yeah, for sure.
No, exactly, and that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, but also they chose it because they have to learn it, and so like we all choose the sign we're in because we have to learn those things. It's not like we're just like when you're a certain sign, you're not born just fucking fully that thing. You have to like grow into it. You learn. You chosen to learn those experiences to grow into that thing. And
Well,
There's a
it's hard
negative
when you're
energy
a
exchange
fish.
with victimhood that I
What?
don't respect that much. That's what I'm trying
yeah,
to say.
no, I
No,
get it.
no, I hear what you're saying, but it's just it's part of the hard thing of just being just first of all, you're a fish, you don't know anything else really but water. And even if you do know that there's something else but water, you can't really experience it for more than just a dip,
That's
you
true.
know? And it's the same thing as this, and if you're just water, and so you're even more spiritual to realize that you're not just a fish, you are water, you know? You still
Yeah,
have a lot of those same limitations because then you don't know because then you're the shape of your container. And sometimes if you never actually go into a different container in that lifetime, you don't realize that you're not your container as well.
yeah,
Word.
yeah. That's actually weirdly very wise for Pisces. So well said. You
Yeah.
sometimes you can tap into these random fucking things and you just nail the fucking thing. I'm like, oh wait a minute. Oh, okay. Yeah. Fucking on
I
point,
only
Troy.
said all those things about victimhood with Pisces so that a
You're good.
Pisces could feel like a victim when they get to this point. And then I'm going to be like, hey, Pisces,
Oh,
it's okay. We still love you. Don't worry
yeah,
about
no. But you aren't wrong.
They
I just want
disliked being
you aren't
criticized.
wrong. Yeah. Like
So
it's annoying as fuck. It's really annoying. And I just want to take them and slap them and be like, fucking like just accept it. Cause like what they don't realize is like all it takes is just internally flipping a switch
it. Accepting.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
like everything is fine. And it's like, so no, you're not wrong, bro. Like I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just playing up the compassionate side where it's like, oh, understand
Yeah.
Pisces, they're so weak and pathetic and they need pampering and all that. No,
I do love them. They're always really cool, like to just sit and hang out with. They're really good hanger outers,
yeah,
because they're chillers. They're not like too crazy usually. I've
yeah,
noticed, but maybe
no,
it's
no,
just because they're hanging around with me. They're almost always fun to hang out with.
they
So
are,
I do
no,
like that.
they're
Okay, we're
you don't,
ready to move on to
yeah,
Aries.
yeah, but just you're right, there's not much judgment when you're hanging out with them. They're very they're in their own world, so you don't feel like you're like getting like constantly judged like you would hang out with like a Capricorn, for example. But yeah, exactly, or a Virgo. All right.
all right. Well, Aries, fire sign, color red. Sure, why
Just
not?
one color. That's nice.
Yeah, just one color. Yeah. First chakra, of course. That's all you get. Just
Yep.
one chakra, baby. Think about
One
nothing
chakra.
else.
You better learn how to
Only butt
ground,
stuff.
motherfucker.
Only butt stuff. Um, quality cardinal. Day is Tuesday. Ruler is Mars. Yeah, let's just skip over that other stuff. Strength is courage, determined, confident, enthusiastic, optimist, honest, and passionate. And let's
Yeah.
just say weaknesses: impatient, moody, short-tempered, impulsive, aggressive.
Yes. All of those are right. I mean, Aries is the simplest sign.
Yep,
And I mean that with
I am.
all due respect.
I am.
It is literally the
Unintended.
simplest sign. It's like, oh, fuck, I'm in a world. I'm going to go fucking build my ego. It's going to be super fun. And they just go and build their ego. And that's like their whole game. That's the whole game for an Aries.
Well,
Build your ego.
and honestly, I felt like a cusp for a long time, in so I've always like seen myself as a blend between Pisces and Aries. So that's part of the reason why I put a lot of thought into these two signs.
Well,
Just so you know.
you act like both Pisces and Aries, so it
Well,
makes sense.
and just real quick, please thank Amber for like being the only one who laughed at my probably the greatest post that I ever made, and of the astrology shit posting group.
Here,
It's the one I'm
thank
the
her
most
yourself.
proud of.
Thank her yourself. She just sat down a little while ago.
Thank you, Amber.
Repeat
Thank you,
yourself,
Amber.
Trey. He said, "Thank you for liking one of the greatest posts he ever
No, she
made."
laughed at it
Oh,
because
laughed at.
it was hilarious, and it still is
What was
hilarious.
what was the post?
You gotta tell
It
us.
was the one. It's the one with when he's looking down and he's looking all angry. And I said astrofascist when they astrofascist looking at you after you say you're a cusp.
Oh, that's the thing. Like Troy thinks that cusps are real, but like he's in the Aries, and it's just time that he.
To be honest, is I just like poking fun more than anything else because it's just like I'm like, oh, I found a weak point where I can make people say
Get mad? Yeah, fuck yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love
Yeah.
Aries. It's one of my favorite energies of all the zodiac. It is my favorite in many ways.
I gotta pee.
it's-
Amber's sitting in for me. Keep going. Sorry. Keep going. I can still hear you.
We'll keep going. Yeah, it's such a fun energy. I mean, it's tempestuous. It keeps things moving. It keeps things fucking going. They just do what the fuck they want to do in the world, and that's great. The more that Aries is really being themselves, the less you're going to be able to predict. Like the less you're going to be able to predict them. I would say, because when they really get into themselves, they'll just do whatever they want to do in the moment. They're not typically, unless they've got a bunch of Capricorn to balance it out, they're not typically very disciplined. Because Mars energy really doesn't like discipline. Mars and Saturn do not get along super well. Saturn is good for Mars, but Mars does not think Saturn is good for it. It's a beautiful energy. How do you like being an Aries, Troy? What do you think about it?
It's I feel it's been I think that within combination with my other placements makes it so that people go, what the fuck is going on? You know? And
I think that's a normal reaction to an Aries, actually, because they're difficult. I mean, for being kind of the simplest energy to understand, they're still really they're still complicated because they're building up themselves, right? Like that's the whole goal. Is to build up, like if Leo is like the ego in its seat, Aries is like the ego trying to understand it's trying to understand what this player in time and space is, you know? Like it's fun. It's like with an Aries rising, I notice that I can just go do things. I can just do whatever the fuck I want, and usually the universe will fucking look after me as long as I'm not like betraying myself, as long as I'm putting my energy forward, not going against my own beliefs or my own morals or whatever. Like the universe really provides. Aries are blessed. They're really lucky in a lot of ways because they can go where angels fear to tread and be okay. Like they're less. You're probably in more danger in Eugene area than you would be in like a tough city in Mexico. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's more dangerous for you to be in a place that really restricts freedom of expression than it would be for you to be in a place that's traditionally dangerous, which is kind of interesting. I think that's kind of an Aries thing. The more that they're given freedom to be who they are, the happier they are and the better they relate with everybody around them.
Now, I'll just present the counter.
Yeah.
Some might call that selfish, which is the negatives of Aries is they tend to they have, and again, this is not judgment, it's just they have blinders on to my needs, my wants. Like they don't see outside of like their what they want in the
respond
moment.
to the stimulus in their reality
Yes.
and act accordingly, which
Yes.
is
Yes.
their senses and
Yes.
not
And
other people's
their
senses.
need, exactly, their needs, their wants. Like, this is my feeling in the moment.
And it's like, if everybody else would just do their fucking job, I wouldn't have to fucking do it for them.
That's more your Capricorn, but rising. But yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's more Capricorn. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Okay.
yes, no,
Just
that
so you
is
know.
no. That's more your Capricorn rising, because again, that's the manager coming out and saying like, well, if people just did their fucking job in the material world, that's more your Capricorn rising talking. Aries is more like, well, fuck it. Aries wouldn't even be concerned with that because they're just so focused on their needs.
So Aries is more of my work ethic. If I want it done, I just have to do it. If it's important to me, I just have to do it.
You can just do it because you just want to do it. And like, yeah, if it's important to you and you're going to follow that impulse, and like, yeah, like, Mike is actually right in the sense that like, yeah, like they're weirdly allowed. Like, so we started with Capricorn, which is interesting because we started with the last 3 signs, which are all about like, after you've developed a self and fully come around and then worked with others through all the other zodiac signs, then you get to Capricorn where it's about like who you are in the world.
The crystallization of the self. It's the highest expression of the ego in some ways.
Yeah.
The disciplined ego.
And then the self, and then internalizing the self, and then realizing that the self it's like just completely surrendering to like the flow of life and realizing that you're just, Pisces is just like whatever. But Aries is like, you're here to develop, like, I want something, I'm gonna go with it. And Aries can go in many different ways. Like, like an Aries, like moon, for example, is gonna have like, they're just gonna go with their emotions as they feel them. An Aries Venus is just gonna follow their heart, or follow like, that person is attractive, I'm just gonna go with them. Like, I wanna fuck them or whatever. Like, because
that was hard for you to say. I wanna fuck them or whatever.
Well, no, Troy, you have
it into the video. We can do some basics.
No, we're not editing.
Yeah, we're not editing.
I know. No, I'm just saying. Yeah, we're
but like, but the idea is that like Aries is just like it in a unfortunately, like, people, if this is why Aries can frustrate people, because it feels like they're just so like, and I use the word selfish because I mean that's kind of a loaded term, but like it's really just because they're just focused on the self, and that's their job. Like the sign of Aries is about developing the self. It's the self. I mean, it's completely self-focused, and that's not a bad thing because that's the role of Aries. Just like we talked about the roles of other, like, in a way it's almost positive because it's like, yeah, it's like, like, and that's where like, okay, so we're talking about the strengths. It's
they
like courageous.
Call me Ram because it's what I do.
Hey, and yeah, optimistic, honest,
5 minutes,
confident. Like, an Aries in their best is honest and is confident because they're honest, because they have the strength to just say things as like, they're like, oh, I want this thing, I'm gonna go with it, and I'm just gonna say it, and I don't care if I hurt someone's feelings or if I upset someone or offend someone, or I'm not thinking about those things, I'm thinking about what I want. And so there's a certain like, it's naive is the wrong word, but like an innocence about it in the most positive sense, where it's just like,
it's like the infant of the zodiac, right?
Yeah,
it's like a newborn.
Yeah.
Like it just screams and wants attention, needs help, right? So it's like and it's like you come out screaming into the world covered in blood. It's pretty metal, it's kind of cool. Aries is about fucking what you were talking about. Aries is about fucking. It's true.
I mean, they are. That's a desire.
Yeah. Very high desire, very high passion. Usually that drive is very well developed. As it goes. But the other thing about it is like, yes, this is why people get mad at Aries, because Aries doesn't really care about other people. In some ways. I'm not saying that you in particular. Aries is not focused on what other people are thinking about them. They're focused on them, like their own mythic journey through this fucking crazy world. And for those of us that are focused on other people, it's like, oh, fucking Aries going again, and they'll run into groups and just like blow shit up for no fucking reason. And you'll just be like, oh, thanks, Aries. You just fucking blew shit up. I've noticed this about Aries many times where they're just like, they get off the handle, they take it out on other people, even if they don't deserve it. They get out their anger sometimes in unhealthy ways. I'd say that's like a drawback of Aries, is how they express anger in the moment.
But I will say in the moment though, because then 5 minutes later they're fine. So that's the other side of it, where like, you know, other signs might hold on to stuff and like hold grudges. Aries doesn't necessarily hold grudges because it's just like they're just fucking, I'm angry in the moment. Fuck you. I'm gonna say exactly what I think and feel and not fucking censor myself. But then also 5 minutes later, they're like, all right, we're fine, whatever, fuck it, I'm over it. Like, so it's a double-edged sword because like they can, like, they will seem like they're just fucking, they hate you. They're saying all the shit. They're just like, blah. But then like 5 minutes later, like, all right, we're fine. Let's just fuck it out, whatever. So it's kind of like that's whereas
totally
some
how Rams do it. Have you?
Yeah.
Like
They butt
when you
heads.
look
Yeah,
at
yeah.
behavior. Yeah, it's just like it's totally like that. They just look at each other like, "Let's go, motherfucker."
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But then they're fine. Like then, but they do get over shit.
Now.
Yeah, they move on to the next thing, and they're not like some signs will hold on to stuff and like hold grudges for years. Like an Aries, like in general, is not going to like hold on to shit. They're just going to express it in the moment, and whatever. Like, and so they're whatever they're feeling in that moment. But then they will, and so that's where like the passionate side does come out, because it's like, and that could also be a positive feeling where it's like they're just like so into you and so enthusiastic and so like, oh my god, you're amazing, blah blah, like, oh. But then they're like, oh well, you just pissed me off, fuck you, you're a dumb fucking piece of shit, and they'll just like run their mouth. But then 5 minutes later it's over and they're just like, then the other person's left like, what the fuck just happened? But like, it's because they're not focused on, oh, you know, like, oh, the words I said, how did they affect you? They just needed to say those words. Does that make sense? So like, again, it's just about they're coming from a place of like, this is what I'm feeling right now. Me, these are the feelings I have, express, versus someone else who might be like, well, I need to tread lightly around someone and think about how my words are going to affect someone else. Like, Aries doesn't care about that. Yeah. They're just,
Aries has some trouble putting themselves in other people's shoes.
Yes.
As a rule.
Yeah.
Maybe as a thought experiment they can, you know, like if they train themselves to do it, but it's not something that would come naturally to Aries energy, at least, you know.
Mean, I think that they're only good at doing that in the sense of envy when they want what the other person has.
Sure.
What I've noticed about Aries though is that they're not generally liars. Oh. I mean, they normally tell the truth. Like, I mean, they do, and if they do lie, it's like they're the worst liars, is what I've noticed from Aries, right? They're like, it's the most obvious liars.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, Gemini, you can tell because their mouth is open, you know, like but Aries, like,
with the dog sitting there. Oh, this is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No. But no, I agree with Mike, because it's like, no, they're. No, that's a good fun. Yeah. No, but they, and that's why they're best at when they just express, like, they're not good liars, but they're great at telling you shit that maybe you don't want to hear, because they don't filter it. They don't, like, you know, like other signs might like be like, oh, I need to be tactful, or I need to like, you know, consider their feelings. They're just gonna be like, no, you're being a dumb bitch, but also you're awesome. Let's go do this fun thing now.
Let's go have a drink. And
exactly.
Be a dumb bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, wait a minute, like, but they're like, oh well, I'm over it. Why aren't you over it?
Why are
it's like,
you?
Yeah.
Stop being such a dumb bitch.
Yeah, exactly. But also, let's go have a drink and fucking have some fun. It's like,
come on.
Yeah. So it's a weird, like, you know, some people struggle with that energy, and some people are like, oh, this is easy because I don't have to like, oh, what you get is what you get, you know, like what you see is what you get, kind of a thing. And there's not like that, like levels of like complexity in a negative sense where it's like you're having to like, well, what did they really mean by what they said? No, they said what they mean, and now they're past it. So it's like, oh, okay, well, that there's a simplicity to that that's kind of in a way weirdly refreshing, because it's like, oh, well, I don't have to overthink it. What they said, what they meant, and now they're cool. So it's like, oh, okay. So there's
I'll never hate Aries energy. It's so fun.
Yeah. And it is fun. Like, that's the positive, is it is very fun, because they're just like, well, let's go do this thing now. They're very impulsive in that way, where it's like there's an impulsivity. They're like, oh well. And again, it says it's one of the weaknesses, but I don't agree with it being a weakness. I mean, sure, impulsivity can be a weakness, but in a way, it can also be fun. It can be, it gets things moving. Yeah.
Well, it's just
impulsivity
like
gets you into weird
situations. You just have to know how to harness them.
Yeah.
It's
And
like
that's
that is a problem with Aries is they when they don't have the emotional control in the moment, every once in a while they'll like say the wrong thing. If they're just saying it to you and you've been friends with them for like 4 years and they're saying some rough shit to you and you're like, oh, that's just Aries being Aries, you know? But
yeah,
if they're at a bar and they're like talking to somebody that's a foot taller than them and they suddenly do that shit, they're gonna get punched, you know? Like
yeah,
that shit
yeah.
happens. Like
And
so that's
and
why you're lucky that you're in Oregon, Troy, because I don't think people can punch each other without charges being filed there. But if you were
yeah,
in Washington, it might be different. I think
we're
Washington
Texas.
still has a rule that you can do combat with people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mutual combat is still legal. Yes, yes, you're right.
yeah.
Well,
But it has
don't
to be
forget that
mutual.
I grew up doing martial arts, and so
That's
I'm
an
actually
Aries thing.
I'm very good with de-escalation too.
Yeah,
Just working festivals, and you know how many crusty people are trying to like do stuff, and you're just like, hey man, you can't throw that away here, and they're like, but I want to, and just like then people will just walk up because they're just like they want to take all their frustrations out on somebody. Yeah, so I've had lots of experience, and also just doing random customer service thing where it's just like, you know, oh, understanding where people are coming from and de-escalating it as long as, they're physically and emotionally capable of it.
yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
and you nailed something because, like, I think what, like, if we're talking about like the highest like positives of a sign, it's like a Zen martial artist is like one of the higher positive expressions of Aries because it's like they know they could beat the shit out of you, they know they could get into a fight with you and go toe to toe with you, but they're gonna be Zen and just not give a fuck. Like that's like, I mean, that would be like the ultimate because, like, you don't just want to go around getting into fights and just being like, like fuck it, like as an Aries matures, they learn that Zen side of things where it's like, yeah, like, fuck you, you're being an idiot, but also I'm gonna have my Zen and I'm not gonna get into a fight with you. And like I'm not gonna be completely impulsive in the sense of like running. I'm not gonna fight every battle, which is like, it's a Mars sign. Like sometimes you like learning what battles to fight is like a lesson for Aries, maybe. And so like learning like, okay,
Yeah.
I can fight every battle and they have the energy to do it, but like maybe learning to fight like what are the battles I want to fight and what are the battles I'm just gonna let go. And like that's maybe like a lesson for Aries or one lesson, yeah. So
I think
but
we should go to Gemini tonight and
yeah,
then
we
do the
can't
other
do all of them.
six.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
No,
can't do all.
I was realizing the same thing, but that'll work great.
Yeah,
And
we
So
then
I've got
definitely
one
can't
more
do
thing
all of
to
them.
say about Aries.
Yeah,
Aries is the warrior archetype, right? It is
yep.
the individual warrior archetype. It is the fighter, in D&D. That is the Aries energy. So you almost always have to have a battle uh that you're in, like something that you're fighting for. Like you have to have something that you're aiming for. They're very goal oriented. Um they want to get things done. They want to get things accomplished. They're cardinal. They don't mind fighting to get where they need to get. As our society has become more and more like bureaucratic and shit, Aries are under a lot less. They have a lot less freedom. I mean, and that's probably something that more Aries should fight for is more liberty for themselves, and more power. I've met just tons of Aries that are like literal warriors, like they went into the army and shit like that. They learned to hone those skills. So sometimes the discipline of organizations are really helpful for Aries to sublimate their will underneath a larger will, um, to aim that aggressive, assertive energy towards positive, potentially goals. And
yeah,
you would think that the army is positive potentially, even if it's been misused in the US a lot, but it is the idea of having in a lot of people that are trained to be very violent when they're necessary is actually a pretty good thing. And having people with those skills is really good. And Aries often are really good at those skills.
Well,
oh yeah,
and the thing is, just it's a much more normal trait. It's just we live in a society where violence is not needed, but that's only like in the scope of human history and the scope of our body and things even going on this planet in other places. violence is more normal than we'd like it to be. So
Yes.
people being ready for violence is just preparing, as I like to say, like a fire extinguisher. I'd rather have it if I need it than I never really want to have to use it.
Do you have a fire extinguisher?
I do.
I don't
Fire
have
ex-
one.
Yeah.
I should get one. Thinking about it.
I just have a water bottle that I just will spray around,
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
jug of water because of Aquarius. Okay, anyways,
Let's do Taurus. I think we're done with Aries.
let's do it. Yeah, we got to move on. Let's do it because what time is it? Holy shit! Yeah, let's go.
Taurus. Earth sign, green and pink. Like that is
Hot.
undisputable.
Honestly, that's you aren't wrong. That's funny. Yeah.
Quality is fixed Friday and Monday. Like
No,
they end the week and they start the week. They
I don't
are
know why they have Monday. They shouldn't have Monday. It should only be Friday.
That's interesting.
Monday is Moon Day, so that should be connected with Cancer. They have Friday because that's Freya's day. That's Venus's day. They're ruled by Venus.
Yeah.
They only have Friday. They don't get Monday.
Well, Venus 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we?
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Perfect. All right.
Strengths: reliable, patient, practical, devoted, responsible, stable. Weakness: stubborn, possessive, upcoming. Likes:
Not upcoming.
I'm
on,
compromising, dude.
I was just like, oh, cooking. There we go. Cooking and gardening. Sweet. Trope is alive.
I mean,
No, the food thing with Taurus is real. I mean, that's like there's a reason why people make fun of it all the time. But they love material comfort. They're fixed earth, right? They love the things that earth has to give.
Yeah. High quality
Man,
clothing. Yeah. High quality clothing is accurate as fuck. Yeah.
High quality everything. They want
Yeah,
the
yeah.
best quality that they can get, whatever class they're in. They're very into the touches. They're very into the senses. They are a very embodied sign, maybe the most embodied, like, which can kind of feel like the most materialistic, I think, at times, right? Even Capricorn is more like severe. They're more austere, I guess, and even Virgo is, but Taurus leans towards the more what is it, like when somebody just kind of gives themselves into their senses? They lean more towards the hedonist aspect of life,
Yeah.
if not checked. That is like a big part of the Taurus nature. But all the positives are right. They tend to be reliable, they're patient. They tend to be patient. Depends on if they have an Aries moon or not. Sometimes they're not as patient, you know.
Oh, she's not in the room. She didn't hear that.
Okay, I was hoping she was. That was for her.
Would you say the
I thought so.
difference between
I
that
thought so.
is
Damn. Too bad.
on the negative
that was
points you'd
fun.
have stingy and like being possessive? Well, I guess they already have that up there.
They're not stingy. I wouldn't say. I haven't met.
No, they're very
Tauruses that are
generous.
super stingy.
They're
Well,
very
They're
generous.
usually very generous.
Well, no,
They
I was just
usually
saying-
yeah.
because they're
No,
Venus, right? Venus
yeah.
is like a giving planet. It loves
They're
to
very,
it loves to have company. It loves to have people to kind of show off their skills to. It loves that domesticity, you know.
yeah.
It's
They like
very
giving gifts.
I love them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Always been a big fan of Tauruses. They are a
Oh,
very
yeah.
dark sign. That
Well, I was just
is-
saying that as a counterpoint to basically saying that if they appreciate the good things in life, it also makes them grateful. You know?
Yeah. I mean,
as the two extremes of that, because one thing is that, oh, I need my things to feel good because I need those outside things to make me feel good because I can't control my own feelings, which is like on one end of the spectrum is the other thing of being just like, you know what? I really like my nice things. I'm thankful to be around my nice things. My nice things make me feel good. This is nice.
now
this is like the dark side of Taurus. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just going to go really quick.
I was done.
Go.
The dark side of
Go.
Taurus is they get caught up in their possessions. Their possessions can end up owning them like really easily, and that is a real danger for Taurus people, is to get so attached to whatever emotion or whatever feeling that they initially had with the thing that they can't let it go, right? It's like letting go of things for Taurus is like probably the hardest thing that they can do. Like if they're attached to something, like an item or a person, you're going to be hard pressed if a Taurus had if you are the object of a Taurus's affection, you just are in for the long haul. You just got to deal with it. You know, that's what this was going to happen.
Or
Because they're not
they're
going to give up
scorned.
on it. They're
Yeah.
very stubborn
Yeah.
with what they like, you know,
Or dislike.
or dislike. Oh God,
Yeah.
they're the worst. Okay, that just reminded me. They are the
Okay.
absolute worst at judging somebody initially and then just hating them forever. Like they will
Interesting.
absolutely just write people off like almost immediately. And the only reason I know this is because of how many Tauruses I've had in my groups over the course of time. And they'll just have they'll have an intuition about somebody and they'll be like, that person is a fuckhead. And they will never be changed from that ever. They might be like, well, maybe they're not quite as much of a fuckhead, but they're still a fuckhead, you know, like that's like the nature of their
Interesting.
energy. You should ask ask your girl about this, see if it's true, because I think it's
I will.
totally true
Okay.
based on what I've seen. I don't know if it works with the guy Tauruses, but it's definitely true with the girl Tauruses.
Okay. I will. I'll see. I'll I wish she was here to. I asked her to stay for the Taurus section, but she took off. So yeah.
Well, I guess the one thing that like I always think about when I think about Taurus, as just like so Rudolf Steiner, his whole anthroposophy, which is the whole thing of like behind biodynamic farming, which is heavily based on astrology, and like there's like a the Farmer's Almanac is
It's
based on
based on
basically
astrology.
this
Yeah.
is based on well is basically off of Rudolf Steiner's work as well. And so basically he wrote on a whole bunch of different stuff, and a lot of what the understanding is that like the cow is like kind of similar like in Hinduism or whatever, that the cow is kind of essentially always meditating. It's always ruminating on its own thoughts. It's always in the present. It's basically, like, so they have a lot of their preparations that actually use various aspects of like cow horns, or I should say bull horns from cattle. But either way, there's a lot of different preparations for that, and it's just every time I think about the Taurus in that sense is that they're kind of just like in the sense of that the Pisces is Zen of being like I am water. It's just like, Taurus is like I am earth, I am the clay. I
Yeah.
I I am what I am,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think it connects with I have. So the keywords for Aries are I am, the I am that I am, right? And then the keywords for Taurus is I have. And corresponds with like the toddler phase, I think, or the baby phase. Um, which is why there's such the oral fixation. There's like usually like there's so much about Taurus, man. I've been watching them. They're probably the most known sign to me just because of how many of them are in the groups, you know, and how many I've been in group chats with forever. They chew on things forever. It's like the cud idea of a cow. It chews on the cud. A Taurus is almost always willing to go over past drama, like, and just replay the whole thing. They remember things
Oh
very
yeah.
clearly. They have
Oh
like
yeah. They have
it's
really good
like once
memories.
they
Yeah.
really process something, it's in them for good. They're not flighty. They're not
Mm-hmm.
like it's very interesting. Tauruses are like maybe it's my Scorpio-ness that really likes them, you know, but Jesus, they're a trip. They are
Yeah.
very reliable though. Like absolutely reliable. If a
Oh yeah.
Taurus makes a promise to you, they're gonna get it done for you, you know?
Oh yeah. No, they are very reliable. in that way. And yeah, just consistent in the sense that like, but they have a very clear idea of things to them, and we might not, like, someone might not agree with those ideas, but to them those ideas are so fixed and clear, again fixed for them, that they're going to be consistent with those things. And so like it's also hard to like change their mind. It's hard to like, like, yeah, like once they've made their mind up about something, it's really hard to change it. But there's also a value in that, because for them, and like we're talking about like it's the first couple of signs. We talked about Aries being with the first sign, well, Taurus being the second sign. It's like they're here to develop that ability to just, this is what I think about the world, this is what I feel about the world, like feel from like a very like material sense, not like an emotional sense. Like, and this is the world to me, this is how I experience the world, so I'm just gonna stay with that. And there isn't this like, they're not as like complex and like complicated is a better word, because complex is sounds judgmental, but like complicated in the sense that like some people like will build things up and make it all these layers on, and it's like, no, they're just like, this is this. There's a simplicity, again, like just look at the Aries, there's a simplicity about them that is in a way refreshing, because it's like you're not having to like weed through all this like convoluted bullshit to get to what they think. They'll just, this is what they think, and you, again, you don't have to agree with it, but that's what they think. And like it's easier to just go, okay, well then I can build from there, instead of having to like try to like pull it out of them. I mean, sometimes you have to pull it out of them because they can be a little more shy than an Aries, but like, yeah.
Yep.
Well, cows ram when they get angry,
Yeah.
or they stomp,
Yeah.
or they, you know, but and they can kick too.
Yeah.
Cows can
But
fuck you up, dude.
oh yeah.
They're
But
they're connected with Venus, so they're connected with beauty. Often like Tauruses are going to be very physically, especially in youth, they're going to be very physically beautiful. Beauty usually kind of goes with them. They're usually also very earthy. So you'll tend to see more Tauruses that are like, they're very embodied, right? So what I've noticed is you don't meet a ton of like, in their older age, you don't meet a ton of skinny Tauruses. You don't tend to. Sometimes you do. And I don't mean this in a mean way. It's more that they enjoy the material comforts of life. They enjoy like eating, they enjoy like drinking and being merry. They enjoy excess to a certain extent. They kind of share that in common with their opposite Scorpio. Um, and there is a sense of there is a sense with them that once they get really habits locked in, they are like very unlikely to change their habits, barring like kind of acts of God, you know? So a Taurus getting really deep into like addiction or into what have you, they're almost the hardest ones to reach to change their mind enough to get out of it, you know? Once they get into their ruts, very difficult to move out of them.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that better.
No. I mean, try moving a cow that's standing in a field. If the cow doesn't want to move, I mean,
They don't move.
no. I mean, you can push on it all day long.
You got to
They're
tempt
just-
them with grass.
they
Really
don't move.
Yeah.
But
looking
sometimes they
grass.
move.
Exactly.
Wow.
But no, it's true.
All right. Are we moving on to Gemini?
Yeah, let's move to Gemini.
Yeah, we should, because the time is getting late.
Yeah, because we don't want to get cancer if we stay up too late.
Hey.
Boo, 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 boo.
Bwah, bwah, bwah.
Mutable air. You fuckers.
Yeah.
These people.
Yeah, because fuck
I-
cancer, right?
I like Geminis.
I do.
Geminis, you know,
I don't mind them.
it's funny because they have Geminis, but they don't see. Sorry.
Oh.
Gemini. What?
Hey.
Element is air, color light green or yellow. Mutable. So they're blown around.
Yep.
Wednesday,
They're blowing everywhere.
they're Mercury. Yeah. Well, the nice thing is when you're with a Gemini, it's basically like having a threesome, right? Um, yeah,
Anytime they have sex, it's incest.
Hey.
yeah, or investing. But strengths: gentle, affectionate, curious, adaptable, ability to learn quickly and exchange ideas. Weakness: nervous, inconsistent, indecisive.
I don't know if I think of gentle as a adjective at all with Gemini, but maybe other people do. Let me.
I
Do you
would
think
say,
of them as gentle?
I mean, I'd say that they're, I mean, more that they're like a tactful or aware, you know?
They're socially aware. I will say
Yeah,
that.
Okay,
yeah, in
yeah,
that
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
But
Okay, yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say gentle because sometimes they can just blow people over, you know?
No, no, no. Yeah, yeah. I'm with you. I think they mean by gentle is like, they're not gonna they're not like Aries where they'll be like, well, fuck you, blah, 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 blah. They're very like gentle. Like, I think all the air signs can be gentle, but especially a mutable air because it's like, it's like, I think we think of gentle as like gentle emotionally or gentle like in a Venetian sense. Like, but like, I think what they're trying to say is like, I mean, because I've known Geminis who are kind of like gentle in the sense that they're just kind of like, what's the word? I mean, gentle's like kind of just like playful and simple, I guess. I don't know how else to describe
Yeah,
it. Like, and so maybe
they're
that can
very
come across
playful. I definitely see that with almost all Geminis that I've
and
ever met.
lightness about, yeah, like light, like just in the sense that there's not like too serious about stuff. And there's, yeah. So, gentle might not be the exact right word, but I think I get what they're trying to say.
Well, I mean, I would say that, like, as like like, uh, they like when they're transitioning gears that they have a neutral that's a very like gentle,
Hmm.
center. You could
Their
say.
neutralness is like totally true. They do often come from a really because they're just trying to learn shit from people. So they adopt the neutral tone so that they can actually have the other people express themselves in a way that's unguarded so that they can actually get the information.
Ah,
The whole
yes.
goal of Gemini is to get the information wherever it happens to be. And they go like all over the fucking place to get it too. And they love to be at where it's happening, whatever
Well, and
it
choosing how
is,
it's and
they
choosing
love
how
to
the
be there.
information's disseminated.
What?
And choosing how the information's disseminated.
Yeah, they gossip too. Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, but it's just that but it's a sense of responsibility that they feel they have in that sense. That a lot of gossip isn't necessarily gossip in their eyes, but I mean, some use it for the personal vanity, but then sometimes it's, like actual, like, oh, people need to know about this kind of thing
Yeah.
as a gossip thing. So,
I mean, all Scorpios are going to always side eyes Geminis because Geminis talk, They spend there is there's a couple Geminis that I've met in my whole life that are not like output Geminis that are more and it's always been like a Pisces or a Virgo moon, sometimes a Scorpio moon, but not even that much with them. But Gemini is output. They're about like expressing their ideas, learning new ideas, sharing those ideas. They're kind of like bees, like little bees going from like flower to flower, picking up the pollen. They're like the social pollinators of the zodiac. Absolutely. And that's their energy. And the issue that I have with Gemini really is about shadow. Um, because it might be because Gemini's shadow is probably the most obvious of all the signs to see because they pop into it pretty often. If you know a Gemini, you're going to know like two people, right? It's that dualism. Like their good side, the front-facing Gemini, and then if you get to know him really well, you'll also see the not so front-facing Gemini. You'll see like the twin that's like more emotional, the twin that's like not always super outgoing, the twin that like is not that front-facing, is not that extrovert, is the one that's like processing it all. But they get into mischief, it's like that mutable opposition between Gemini and Sagittarius. They call that like the trash axis. It's kind of the jokey name for it, but the reality is they're wandering far afield. Like you think of Gemini, they're all around the town getting the information from everybody. You think about Sagittarius, they're traveling either through books or through the world to get the information, or to get the wisdom or the understanding. And because they're moving so much through so many spaces, they just pick up a lot of drama and a lot of shit happens to them. They tend to get into more scraps, more problems just because they're moving through all these spaces all the time. And Gemini is probably most known for that, especially in like the local area of just getting caught up, like being
Listening
like
is sometimes participating too much that you get caught up into drama that you necessarily didn't act on, but just you were witnessing it, and now all of a sudden you're a witness in a trial. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like even at your best.
I think it's funny that our president is going to be a Gemini. I think it's interesting to be ruled by a Gemini, or not be ruled, but be led by a Gemini. I think this one is actually kind of cool, but yeah, it's always a trip. You never know exactly what they're thinking. They talk all the time, and sometimes they say the absolute opposite things, right? They might talk about one thing with a complete like sincerity, and then 2 months later, they'll be talking about the opposite side of that issue with complete sincerity, and it's like for a lot of people that's head spinning. I'll leave it there.
No. But to go off at that point, that's like we were talking about earlier about like each sign is born to learn those things. Like a Gemini is, if you have Gemini placements, or especially if you're a sun, it's like you're learning to kind of like, I mean, it rules the rational mind, and the rational mind has to go, I mean, to figure out the right idea, quote unquote, you have to look at both sides, and not like in a Libra sense where you weigh each side. You go literally like, oh, this is one side. Okay, I'm thinking about it. This is the other side. I'm thinking about it. Okay, well, what makes more rational sense? Oh, I'm going to jump back and forth. I'm going to kind of coalesce things, and then like, they're more clever than I think they come across, and I think that that's because they have their minds are constantly buzzing and going, and
Yes.
they might like say dumb shit because like they just kind of will like run their mouth, and so like if you say a lot of words, not all of it's going to be that good, but like whereas some people might hold back and just say what the smartest thing they can think of, a Gemini is just going to say anything that's comes to their mind in the moment. But like they are clever, they are pretty smart. I mean, I wouldn't say like wise is not the word I would use, but they are smart.
They're
And
super
like
smart.
yeah, and like they're in a way it's like, because like they're kind of fun, to be honest. Like they're fun to be around in like a
Oh yeah,
in
super
like
fun.
like especially in like a mental way. Like obviously like if you're like a very emotional person you might get annoyed with them, but like it's they're jokey, they're kind of fun, they're kind of like silly, and like and they're constantly just like saying stuff or like maybe giving you shit but in a very lighthearted way. And like that can be kind of fun, and kind of like they're great to like have a beer with and just like or go do something with, and like they're or even just discuss ideas. I mean, obviously that's like the cliche, but like yeah, they're great to like, I mean, fucking smoke a pack of cigarettes with some Geminis and you'll have a fucking blast. I mean, like I
Oh,
mean
for
that's
sure.
I say
Yeah.
that because like I don't know a single Gemini placement that doesn't smoke on some level, or like some, and maybe it's just air in general, but like so it's there's something to that, and like yeah, that's also where they can come across as like superficial or just like wishy-washy, or they can't make up their mind because it's like they're making up their mind in real time. If that makes sense. They're figuring things out in real time. So it's like it's not that like maybe they might be trying to be like misleading and like lie, but also they're literally trying to figure things out in their mind in real time, and they just like, happen to express it. So we're just like, people around them are like observing that and taking that in, whereas like someone might be like, well, no, like, you're wrong about that, and then 5 minutes later they have a different idea, and you're like, oh, well, you just thought this, no, or why can't you be consistent? But it's like, to them, their consistency is that they are constantly changing and figuring it out, and that's like the mutable side of it, the mutable air. It's like they're working it out in real time all the time. So yeah, that's going to come across to some people as like superficial, or like they're like liars, or they're just going back on what they said. But for
I was outside, the wind was blowing one direction, and then like fucking 5 minutes later, it was blowing back the other direction. I was like, "What the fuck, wind?" Like,
exactly
make
though.
up your fucking mind.
Exactly though. That's actually a silly but very good example of it, because that they also, Gemini is about experience, and like they literally are like, yeah, like, oh, the wind is blowing one way, but now it's blowing this way. My experience is this, and then it's this. Trying to rationalize it and figure it out and put the pieces together. And it's like, I mean, that's a very simple example, but like think about that with like more, more important stuff than just like the wind, or like, oh, this person said this thing, or and then I learned this other thing over here. Well, what does that mean with that? And it's like, oh, but this and that. Okay, but how does that work with that? And so then they're having to like constantly work things out, because that's unfortunately their karma, is to like constantly piece things together. And they usually will they talk it out as they're processing stuff, and that's where it really can cause them problems, because then people think that they're just kind of completely inconsistent or wishy-washy, or that they just are lying or whatever. And yes,
they're not very reflective most of the time.
Exactly.
They're more expressive,
yes,
of
exactly.
the moment, and it's cool to be in the moment. I think all the mutable signs have a certain level of being in the moment, but Gemini maybe most of all, because it's air, right? They're pulled from pole to pole, and they're giving you the running commentary often, of everything that's happening while they're getting pulled. And it's interesting. I have like personal experience with Geminis that definitely colors some of my relationships with them. Yeah, I think that might be the thing, and there is a lot of similarities between Libra and Gemini, so it's probably just shit that I should look at, also,
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do that here. I'll do that later on my own time.
Yeah, when we get to Libra in the next episode.
Yeah,
No, just kidding.
then I'll do my self analysis. I've done it. Don't worry.
Oh God, yeah.
But yeah, that's Gemini. What else do we need to talk about with it? We good?
I think we're good. I mean, yeah, I think we did great. Troy, good fucking idea for an episode, brother.
And then next time we'll go Cancer through Sag.
Yeah, sounds good.
And well, it's also that that air is it's a mutable. Well, this is the mutable sign of air. So from that, it's just like air is, it wants to be breezy. I guess it's like it's well, like, just like if you're thinking about how the atmosphere works, it's about high pressure and low pressure zones that create movement. So it's just like as you experience the movement as air and immutable air, your ability to move in and out of high pressure and low pressure systems, would make sense. And then also of that is being able to transition, as because you're just going to get pulled up into different storms and different things and different temperatures, and you're just adaptable into different things in a certain way, as you would be a immutable air in a breeze, as maybe some kind of elemental.
Oh yeah.
Mutable air switches from side to side. It blows from all directions. Cardinal air is usually focused. It's like a focused directional wind, I'm not quite sure how the air in Aquarius works. Maybe it's like a
It sucks the
tornado.
air of it sucks the air of the room, and then
Maybe
you
it's a
start choking.
tornado.
No, just-
Maybe it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
like this
There you
tower,
go.
towering
That works.
vortex, you know, of
Yeah,
air.
I'll take it.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't think
I'm trying
so.
to think.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no, no, no. I
'cause
like
it's
it. I
not
like it.
directional and it's fixed, right? It's like, I don't know.
Ah, and it can be destructive, but also
Yes.
uh
Yeah.
Well, I mean, well, there, you know, it's just
But
like
also
there are.
circular.
yeah.
Well, I see it much more as like a wind tunnel where it's like you would have like a low high pressure system that goes and so you essentially always had rising air out of this like tunnel would be more of a fixed sign, you know, where
It's like AC.
yeah. Well, I guess it would be more of warming in that sense, but either way, where it's like the other one would be like where it's just like you have a cliff face where you just constantly have an updraft from the ocean across a big wall, you know. So one's directed, one's focused, one is just like constant, and the other one's just like whipping at you, you know.
Oh, nice.
As a difference between that, where this would just be like, you know, air more up in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
If you were trying to just generalize and make extractions from what we know about the elements, or at least their manifestations and our scientific understandings extrapolated from them.
Word.
That's very Aquarius. Yes. Very scientific. All right, boys.
This has been a pleasure.
It's been a long one. I gotta run
Yeah.
too.
Well, sweet.
I gotta run.
Make sure you guys get your H-1B visas before you go to sleep, so that you can go and immigrate to your dreamland. You know,
We obviously will, which is
we're
Somalia.
gonna make our dreams
Obviously.
And
reality
I'm gonna
tonight.
steal some dream jobs. Let's do
Dream
it.
jobs.
Yeah.
All
Have
right.
Dream
fun.
jobs and some dream jobs.
Tell your moo hi, and we'll talk to you later.
Peace,
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah, laugh at all my jokes.
We will.
Oh,
right. All right. Peace, brother. I gotta run. I love you, man.
For sure. I gotta pee.
Do it.